This is the last project that TV pioneer Norman Lear worked on before his death at 101. It is a reboot and a sort of sequel in animated form to one of his popular 70s sitcoms. Let's talk about the Netflix version of Good Times. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my TV review for Good Times. This is an animated reboot and sort of a sequel because it does contain references to the original show a few generations away. But of Good Times, which is streaming now, season 1 on Netflix. It features voice work from J.B. Smoove, Jay Farrow, Marseille Martin from Blackish, Yvette Nicole Brown. So people and maybe even voices that you will know. This was not created by Norman Lear. Of course, he created the original, but he is on here as a producer, as is Seth MacFarlane and Steph Curry. So, you know, big names in the business world, certainly. But no, this was created and developed by Renata Shepard and Carl Jones, this version of Good Times. And before we launch into the specifics of the show and why it is so horrible, spoiler for my review, but it's just abysmal. We'll talk about all of this here shortly. But first, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are one of my Dan Reviews subscribers already, thank you so much for that. Love having you guys return. But if you're not, please consider subscribing. Click that notification bell too, so you get the alerts for all my video drops. Or you can just like this video, comment below, and that does wonders for the channel too. But also, for this specific video, please do comment. If you've seen this, let me know your thoughts, because boy, it is god awful. I mean, I thought the Velma show was bad, and I love Mindy Kaling, but that version, the animated Velma a couple of years ago on Max, that was a stinker. But this takes it to a whole new level. So first of all, look, I liked the original Good Times. It's not one from the 70s that I go back and watch over and over again. I watched it a lot when I was a kid. And there's a few shows in that boat, like Happy Days. I used to watch all the time, but as an adult, it just has not held the appeal for me. But you know, there are certainly shows of that era that Norman Lear was involved with, like The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, that I have, you know, seen many times over, even in my adult life. Good Times, for whatever reason, I guess it sort of I had similar issues than or that John Amos had, who also passed this year, or in 2024, I should say. But the reason he was written off the show and they killed his character, James, the father, is because he felt the show was becoming too silly, too focused on JJ and the dynamite stuff, and a bit of a minstrel show. And he didn't really want any part of it. He wanted some heavier themes and stuff, and that just never came. So he ended up exiting the series because of that. But boy, these creators and producers, Norman Lear, I guess included, took that idea of hey, let's turn this into a minstrel show and just put it all on the screen. I mean, this is an embarrassment. It's such a horrible show. First of all, it's poorly written. It's not funny. You know, part of the theme with Good Times, the original show, was, you know, they were certainly poor. You know, they're living in the projects, you know, just trying to squeak by and never really getting a leg up. Right? And that was sort of the theme. A lot of people were dealing with that, certainly in that time. And guess what? They still are today. So this show could have, you know, drawn some parallels between, okay, you know, in the 70s, we were dealing with these issues. And guess what? A lot of people still are you know, living paycheck to paycheck, really struggling to make ends meet. And, you know, some maybe even more so than the generation or two ahead. So in this version, we have the grandchildren of James Evans, which was the John Amos character. So I'm guessing we're to assume that these are the kids of either, you know, JJ, Michael, I forget the daughter's name. Bernadine Stanis was the actress, but I forget the character's name. But anyway, I guess we're to assume that they are the children of them. But anyway, boy, oh boy, from, you know, singing to a roach in the shower to a baby that's a drug dealer. I mean, this is just showing you the absolute worst stereotypes of black culture and just shoving them in your face. The talking baby, I realized after I looked up, a little bit about the history of the new version and saw Seth MacFarlane was a producer, I was like, okay, well that makes sense. I really am not a fan of any Seth MacFarlane TV shows in terms of animation. I do love some of his live action stuff. That sci-fi show he did was awesome. I forget the name of it, but it's been a few years since that was on. But I really liked that. And some of his movies are okay. Like I like the Ted TV show, although I thought the movies were kind of bad. But I don't think MacFarlane is a particularly good writer. I don't think he had a lot of input in writing any of these episodes, but just sort of the ideas of, oh, I know, let's have the baby be a huge drug dealer, just like Stewie, and he could have been friends with Stewie in another universe. It's like, first of all, that's lame and hackneyed and all of that, but it's just bringing all of these stereotypes to the forefront in the worst possible way. And look, obviously I'm not black, so I'm not here to necessarily be offended, for that community, but I am gay, and I've seen shows like this, and Netflix actually put one out that I think Sean Hayes was behind, and it was called Q Force, and it was the worst stereotypes about gay people shoved in your face, and it wasn't funny either. Like, there's certainly things you can do with stereotypes that are funny. A lot of shows have shown us that over the years, even recent shows like Modern Family, but boy, oh boy, this is just abysmal in every single way. The writing, the stereotypes, the characters, and not to mention the animation is some of the ugliest I have ever seen in an animated series. Also, it does this weird thing because it bleeps out certain words, but then it leaves other words like the N word in there, and it's like, well, are we sanitizing this show or are we not? I mean, it's on Netflix, so you can get away with whatever you want, I suppose. But that was, it didn't really hurt my, disappointment in the show already, but I did take note of that. It was kind of odd as a choice that they did that. But yeah, boy, oh boy, I mean, this is just a disgrace. I recently, a few years ago, just out of curiosity, watched the Amos and Andy show from the 50s, which at the time, was controversial, and 70 years later it's way more controversial. This is like watching that. I mean, it just really was hard to get through and unfunny and just despicable. So I don't think this was renewed for a season 2, and if Netflix is still thinking about that, please don't, if anybody from Netflix is watching this. But God, this is a turd. It is by far the worst show from 2024 that I have reviewed. I give Good Times an F. There's no two ways about it. It's easily the worst show of 2024. All right, thank you for watching Dan Reviews It, and I'll see you next time.